They say every superhero needs a theme song. I guess we gon' need a couple cause the team's strong. We like King Kong, mixed with Godzilla. Podcast, but my cast make the pod rilla. First up is Mako Blue. With her words and her curves, she can take your boo. j-zoe slays hoes if you say so. He be playing with they feelings like it's Play-Doh. The next Mac is Bubba, the Pack's little brother, the ass-eating, pussy-licking, black nipple sucker. We talking little siblings, here comes Happy. Her van is full of Scoopy snacks, here comes Scrappy. Lotus gonna notice all the threats in your future. Joris gonna wake you up and get you an Uber. Lyric got the spirit of a hip-hop head. Cross her across, madam, you gon' get shot dead. Molly Sweet might give a man cavities. Jenna Reese make them fall like gravity. And last of the rogues is Axel Bros. If you wanna know about me, just ask the hoes. Every Tuesday, we gon' drop bombs in here. No Disclaimers Podcast.com is here. Yeah.
Hey, I'm Jenna Reese, and you are listening to the No Disclaimers Podcast. I'm Donald Trump's worst nightmare, and I'm here with Axel.
Yo, yo, yo.
Blue.
What's poppin'?
Bubba.
What's up, y'all boys?
Juris.
What's good in the hood?
j-zoe.
Sac passe.
Lotus.
Hey.
And Lyric.
Hello, good people.
See, I noticed, like, I forgot during my little intro that, like, I said, what's up, y'all boys? Hello to the lovely lady listeners out there.
I love how you felt the need to correct yourself.
That is so
right.
cute.
Like, it was so disgusting of him to not address women.
Right?
I'm trying not to be problematic in 2000.
I thought boys was universal though. Like, hey, what's up, y'all boys? Like, you gotta use it for everybody.
That's only if you in like a black neighborhood.
True, very true.
Nah, Bubba only did that because he likes vagina and he's an asshole. So
I mean, damn. Can I just be respectful?
Bro, Larry been coming for Bubba all weekend, man.
So what you saying is that Bubba is catering to the pussy out there, basically.
Yes, he is.
Okay.
Listen, I got a lady, y'all. Like, I'm good.
Let's not get into that.
Listen, don't make me seem like a fuckboy now.
Coming straight for the jugular there, Lyric. Damn.
My bad, bro.
Man, I'm just out here, just enjoying, people's company, enjoying my blackness, enjoying being fucking amazing and young and all that. Like, I'm just out here living.
Yeah, that sounds like thought of the year.
Y'all talk about me.
And can I say, like, I'm glad that this is my first podcast with Juris. Like, I missed you, bro.
I'm gay, so chill out.
Damn.
Like,
Listen,
y'all were together on the Woke and Ignorant one. Like, if y'all remember.
I don't think so.
This is our first podcast together. And Juris, don't act like, I can't be straight and say to a gay man, like, I miss you. Like, don't be like that, bro.
You can. It's just that as a gay man, I might take it the wrong way.
That's real.
I do take it the wrong way every time.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
That's exactly why I don't compliment him. The exact reason. Ain't trying to send no signals.
Oh my goodness. But while we are busy, being black and beautiful, I'm thinking about, Samantha Lee and, not that this bitch is black, but, Rachel goes out, whatever the name she's going by right now. And I just want to know how y'all feel about them. Like,
Hold on. Correct. Somebody refresh my memory. Which one is Samantha Lee again? Like, who's Samantha Lee?
Samantha Lee is Tyrese's new wife. She's like a social worker or something of that nature, and She does a lot of philanthropy work, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, they just got married on Valentine's Day. He dropped it on social media. It was like, oh, I found my black queen. And then, you know, black women were in an entire whole ass uproar.
Oh yeah.
But she's black though. Like, I don't understand.
And she looks black to me. So
See, people low key, I saw a comment that said she looked like Princess Jasmine, and low key, she really does look like Princess Jasmine. But she's also Hispanic, so she's like essentially half black, half Hispanic descent. And I think the problem that most people had wasn't the fact that he got married to her. It was the fact that he called her his black queen, and people were like, hold the phones. She ain't black though. She don't look black. She just not.
But who's policing her end of the diaspora though? Like I don't really actually know, because I couldn't find that on like on a fact check page. Somebody just put into the equation and offered that she was Jamaican, Ecuadorian, and something else. It's probably one of the diaspora. But
If I'm not mistaken, it's Jamaican, Ecuadorian, and then African American. Like,
yep,
somebody's
that's what
black.
it said. I mean, like, I feel like since that's his own personal thing, like, if he wants to call her his black queen, I don't see why everyone cares. It's not like, you know, BET was like, here is what a black woman is. It's Tyrese, it's his wife, so they overreacting.
But also, she's black. Black, Jamaican, and Ecuadorian. She's 2/3 of a nigga. Like, that's like, like, I don't know. Like, if we can't say that people who are like mixed are black, then we can't say anybody. Almost like half the people, basically the people who are like half black and half white, we can't say that they're black either. Like, you know, if she identifies as black and she actually does have African descent within her, then she's black.
You know, something I noticed about the comments and the tweets and replies about it were that there were a lot of mixed looking light-skinned women who were complaining. And it's just interesting that you're policing blackness when you've probably also been told you weren't black enough. That discussion has come up pretty often.
What is black enough?
Exactly.
Like, are there levels to black? Because, you know, and this kind of makes me think about being in like the college atmosphere that we were obviously a part of, where you saw a variety of complexions. And honestly, I love it. I think it's beautiful. But, you know, I would look, you know, is there a point in that gradient where black becomes the word or the term that we label that person as? Like, is there, because, you know, multiracial is becoming more of an acceptable term. I don't really agree with it. I just feel like if you got a drop of black in you, you black.
See, but everybody doesn't feel that way.
And like with me, when I was in grad school, there was a girl, and she wasn't in like my cohort or nothing, but she's biracial, but she looks white, and that's how she chose to identify. So she wouldn't want that.
Could she pass for white?
Yes. I thought she was white until she told us, and she told us how she chose to pass as white, and she would not want to, you know, pass. She wouldn't want to be associated with being black, and that's basically what she was saying. So I feel like if you're biracial or multiracial, I feel like you should have the ability to choose how you want to identify.
But with that being said, she's literally cutting herself off to an entire part of her culture and her being. So she said that she didn't want to identify as black.
Also, how did she grow up? Because black is also a culture. Like, it's not a skin color, it's a culture. In fact, a lot of, I would even say, like, just because someone looks black doesn't make them black. Like, when we talk about like Caribbean culture, they have a unique culture all their own. But when you talk about black, to me, I just think of the American black experience, because that is different and it's not accepted by every other quote unquote black person.
Well, when I think of, go ahead.
I was going to comment on Black in America. They've changed the way they do your census, where you check what applies, and in some places they don't want to have the option for other or multiracial. I've noticed now where Black used to say African American, now it says Black, and it says of the Caribbean islands, of Africa, of just all these subcategories of the African diaspora, as long as they were not a Latin nation, because you have Afro-Spanish people as well and Afro-Latinos. But
they focus more. I've seen it more where it focuses on whether or not it separates Hispanic, but anytime I see Black on a form, like so for example, students who are taking standardized tests, like they have to check a box. And so for someone who is biracial, like what if they don't have that biracial box? Are they like then thrust into this dilemma of what am I?
you know, for me, when there is no other box, I default to Black. I do choose other. It depends on how I feel. I'm upset that I have to identify. Like,
Would you
I've
say
never found a form. Go ahead.
Would you say you grew up Black?
Culturally, I grew up Caribbean, but Caribbean Black, yes and no. I'm also a little bit Indian and Chinese. But I guess the things that you do know about your culture are Black and Indian things. Those are the things I'm probably closest to.
But I do like the fact that like Black does encompass like the Caribbeans, Africans, African Americans, because I don't know, I just like the feeling of connectedness I have with that, because we are all Black. Like we all do come from one place, and like I know there's a lot of like things that differentiate us culturally, but at the end of the day, like if you see an African, like a Jamaican, like most of the time you're not gonna see like, oh, this person is from this nation or this area. I mean, you could probably tell that, or we could tell that, but most of the time people are just gonna be like, oh, they're Black, and I don't necessarily mind that.
You don't mind it, but I've heard from a lot of people from the islands and Caribbean heritage that do. They don't want to be identified as Black. They feel like they are Jamaican, they are Haitian, they are whatever the case may be. They don't want to be Black.
You know, there's a stigma about African American Blacks, and it's something that you know about even in other countries. And when you come here, you're not necessarily considering the fact that you're about one slave ship stop from have been the difference of being a cotton picking African American in America, or you could have been doing it in the Caribbean and picking sugar cane. It's really not that different, and we forget that very often, because you come to America from your country, which maybe a third world country or something, and you come to America and you don't want to be associated with the rest of the Black people. It's terrible that we've stigmatized us, and people who are also Black don't see that when they come to America, that those Black people are the same as them. They're really just looking out for their own self-interest.
You mean like Dominican Republicans?
Oh, any community. The Black people always talk about we not spending the Black dollar or keeping within our community, that there's Chinese food here, you have Chinatown in every major city in the US. You stick within your own place.
And you got an MLK. You got an MLK, and every MLK is a hood. I don't care where you go.
You're right. You're absolutely right about that. But do they stick together the way Chinatown does, or these little just sub places like Little Haiti and Little Cuba? There's a big difference between Little Havana and Little Haiti.
Let me kind of ask you guys this, because this is sort of making me think about like the theories when it comes to culture. Like, do you believe in this sort of like, do you believe in the melting pot where it's like we've now in America we've sort of blended, or do you believe more in the salad bowl, like there are like separate ingredients but somehow all sort of coalescing to create one big bowl of whatever? Like, it's this idea of, yes, there's differences, there's a slight separation, but are we still part of one larger culture?
I think the melting pot metaphor is bullshit. Complete and utter bullshit. But I don't think the salad bowl is necessarily the way to describe it either. Some cultures have mixed. They have come together and represented each other fully, and some cultures have not. Now, do I have a metaphor to describe what that might look like? Nah, bro. But I know for damn sure it's not a melting pot, because nothing has melted at all. This ain't no soup. Like, everything has not come together as one.
I feel like it's an in-between, like between a melting pot and a salad bowl, because there has been some blending of, just people like learning each other's cultures and stuff, like bringing it back to what we was talking about in the beginning, about as far as Samantha Lee. Samantha Lee, at least she is Black. Now, going off that tip, like, then you have people like Rachel Dolezal, who was born white, raised white, and now identifies as a Black woman, which is a whole another thing in itself. She's recently back in the news again because she changed her name, or is applied to change her name to Nkechi Amare Diallo. And so
That's true? Seriously?
Yeah, she changed her name.
Yes, she has.
Wow.
I feel like her situation is a tad bit different, though. That's not somebody who has a piece of Black culture, or has a piece of Blackness and a piece of whatever other culture or whatever other ethnicity that you would like to identify with, and is trying to figure out where in which they belong or who they identify with more. This is a whole ass white woman.
So
I grew up a whole ass white woman and then decided that she wanted to be a whole ass Black woman. Like, I'm not saying that there is not a place for people who specifically, I don't want to single out white women. You know what? Fuck it. Because I consider minorities separate from white. That's just the way my head processes things. So
I almost
feel like
play devil's advocate a little bit.
But okay, but see, look, there is a place for them.
There is
a place. I'm not saying that you can't come in on all of this melanin and Blackness and want to be included and fight for the things that you feel like should be fought for. Like, her ideals and the things that I've read that she did while she was like NAACP president in Spokane were great things. Like, she had wonderful ideas, but you fucked all of that up because you perpetrated as a Black woman for the last 10 years.
And
like
I guess.
Go ahead.
But I guess, like, because this is a whole discussion that you all are having, about Samantha Lee and Rachel, it kind of makes me think, like, is Blackness some kind of club that anybody can join, or do we have like rules? Like,
hell fucking no.
We got rules and regulations.
So I have a brief scenario that I want to kind of bring. I'm gonna touch on Rachel in just like a second, but this kind of made me think about there was this instance with Black on Black Rhyme in Tampa where they were holding a slam, and there was this guy there.
Can you explain what Black on Black Rhyme is?
Oh, I'm sorry. So Black on Black Rhyme is it's an international organization. There are several organizations around the country, as well as off seas, like in Dubai. But it's just a poetry organization that I became familiar with mostly because of my involvement in college with poetic lyricism. And Black on Black Rhyme is sort of our family. I don't know. They were just our poetic family. I don't know how to extend it any further than that. But so Black on Black Rhyme was having an indie slam, which is an individual slam where certain people, as solo, come in and spit, for 2-3 rounds poetry, and then somebody wins. So there was this guy there from San Francisco who came in, and he heard the name Black on Black Rhyme, and he didn't sign up for the slam right away. He had to ask, like, okay, well, you guys are calling yourselves Black, because he's a white dude from San Francisco. So he's like, you call yourselves Black on Black Rhyme. Is it okay that I'm here? And I really liked that. I wouldn't be mad at a white person who loved my culture as much as I do. what I'm mad at is that they don't really ask for permission. They take up space. And that's really what he was referring to. He's like, you know, am I welcome into this space? Can I come in, even though you guys are calling yourself Black on Black Rhyme? I want to be respectful. And that's where he was cool with me, you know, like I've seen it even with students, with I guess with young kids and like, you know, their white teachers. And once a Black child has accepted a white teacher, they even tell them like, you know, you can use our language. They're inviting them like, use our language. You can say the word nigga if you want to. I don't think that they should, but you know, it's to the point where it's like there's a level of respect there that they're allowing a person of another race or color to use the language of their culture. They're basically inviting them in. And so I feel like we're really lax with the rules. Like, I feel like there are rules, but we relax them based on our level of comfort.
It depends on the intention of that white person. Like, it's not like no white people ever can like appreciate our culture, but you know, there's limits to it. Like, you know, he was respectful when he asked like, oh, can I come into this space? If it was a space where he wasn't allowed in, for example, and he didn't ask and he just walked in and just felt like he should be allowed in that space because he is just a white person and he should just be allowed anywhere, then that's a whole different thing. You know, it's all about, you know, respecting other people's culture.
But shouldn't he though? Like, isn't it the case that as a Black person, we feel like we should be, and when we aren't allowed in any space, then we're in an uproar?
Yeah, we had to create our spaces. That's the difference. There was no space for us. When we talk about Black, honestly, like let's broaden the category. We're talking about slave trade Black, right? And that's anywhere. Or wherever the slave trade occurred, if you are Black by that association, then you family to me.
I disagree with us feeling like we should be accepted and included everywhere, because I'm not going to go into an Indian setting and just feel like I deserve to put on a sari. I'm not going to go
in that case, you're taking up space.
Exactly. I'm not going to go into any kind of because I want to say geisha is Japanese, so I'm not going to go into a Japanese setting and be like, okay, so I have the right to wear a kimono and be a geisha.
But I think the difference with those things is that they so intimately incorporate religion and spirituality with their culture that it's almost one. You're, in addition to putting yourself in their culture, you're also doing something spiritually or religiously that you have no association with. In the Black community, though, that's not the same. So in any setting that the Black person has outside of perhaps the Black church, is it ever really true event? Like, I can't think of one thing outside of church for the Black community that is spiritual or religious in the way that those things that you mentioned are on a day-to-day basis.
Locks are for Rastafarianism.
Yeah.
And white people feel like they got the right to do that.
And sometimes it may not be a religious place. It may be a healing space. Like, for example, after, let's say, somebody like Mike Brown or Trayvon Martin died, there were several events held that was just kind of like a healing space for Black people to cry, to, you know, talk about what was going on, to just like really wrap their minds around it and try to figure out ways to help. And, you know, those spaces weren't open to white people because we don't want to be crying and trying to like heal ourselves while also potentially having to discuss with you why our emotions are valid.
And I kind of feel like that's what Rachel did. Like, she didn't ask permission. She just kind of came in, said, I'm Black like y'all, and I'm going to do what I want. And that's basically kind of what happened. I think that's what the problem is with her. Like, if she was just a white woman who wanted, you know, to be down and shit, and she wanted to help, I feel like wouldn't nobody have an issue. But nah, she had to go real far with it.
It's kind of like taking a trip to another country as a tourist, enjoying everything, and then just being like, yeah, I live here now and I'm a full-blood citizen. No, put in some years, like actually get your visas all straight and put this 10 to 7 years or whatever. But no, you can't be doing stuff like that because we live this. It's a whole culture that we grew up in that molded us. So you can't just kind of jump in and say you're black or, you're whatever now.
You know what?
Okay,
Can I play devil's advocate? Oh, I'm sorry, Lotus. Go ahead.
No, he brings up an interesting point that I was wondering when you said that you don't just put down roots. So what I wonder, because we've talked about the difference, the feeling of there's something being different with African Americans versus international, their counterparts in the diaspora that come here. There are people who come from Caribbean nations who come here and choose to identify as African American. That is the only place where they feel at home. Like, it's become, a blend here even more, I think, sometimes. So is that wrong for them to just come here and assume Black culture in America? Does that also count? Or do they have to put in some years? Do they have to get to know Black culture in America?
Well, and
Go ahead,
since
Jenna.
I feel like we're kind of like already touching on it, kind of want to go ahead and go into Henny for your thoughts. What is cultural appropriation, and is it as big of a deal as it seems? And just for our listeners and anyone who may not be sure what cultural appropriation is, we have the lovely Wikipedia, which defines cultural appropriation as the adoption or use of the elements of one culture by members of another culture. Cultural appropriation may be perceived as controversial or harmful, notably when the cultural property of a minority group is used by members of the dominant culture without the consent of the members of the originating culture. It can include using other cultures' traditions, fashion, symbols, language, and cultural songs without permission. The appropriation or misappropriation refers to the adoption of these elements in a colonial manner. So basically, they copy it from the minority culture, and then they're used outside their original context, sometimes even against the stated wishes of the representatives of the original culture. So,
yeah, basically going off of since we talking about cultural appropriation, I personally believe if we're gonna attack one culture for taking from another culture, it should spread to every single like subculture as well. Like, if I'm Black, I shouldn't be able to go over to Africa and just be like, yeah, I'm gonna throw on this dashiki, like just because I'm Black. Like, and then vice versa. Like, I shouldn't just go to Jamaica and just be able to just rock whatever. And like the same way we wouldn't want an Irishman to come over to Jamaica and start rocking dreadlocks. Like, we can't just, I don't know, I feel like there's a lot of hypocrisy in the Black community as far as like when we call out other people, but we don't be calling out ourselves just because we see them as Black. So we're like, oh, they get a pass. We need to stop giving out passes. Stop giving out passes. All right.
Yes.
I have an interesting question though. Something I see a lot in very tourist-friendly nations, because that's become what the economy is dependent on at times. Like, if you go to Freeport in the Bahamas, there's absolutely nothing there, but a whole bunch of people trying to sell you things, and they may be more, ethnic things, and they're offered to you. And obviously people are buying this stuff. So when you go to Hawaii and they put a laid around your neck, is that cultural appropriation when you're accepting someone's friendliness? Because I also see that people do travel to places and do just jump into culture, but they're sometimes welcome. Like, when you really travel, people aren't afraid to show you their culture and share something with you.
And that's fine.
Welcome. I'm sorry, go ahead, j-zoe.
No, and that's fine, but it's one thing to accept someone's inviting a culture, when you're traveling and tourism, or being a tourist rather. But it's a different thing to try and claim and then misuse or change that culture, like the whole box of braids versus the fact that they're locks. Like, no, that's misuse of our culture. If you had just said, yeah, she went and got braids or locks in her hair, and even though she was white, I'd be cool with it. But the fact you want to go ahead and take our culture and then change the name of it to make it sound appropriate, get that out of here.
Going back to what Lotus said a little bit earlier about putting in years or just being accepted into something, I feel like specifically when people from the islands come over and they're traditionally in predominantly Black neighborhoods, or let's put it into this context, if they are traditionally in a Black neighborhood, we're not talking about Little Haiti or anything like that, they are essentially because of the people who are around them, they are welcomed into Black culture, which is why most of us don't see a problem with anybody of any island descent being like, okay, I'm Black, because you are, bro. Like you've come over, you're out here in these streets in the hood with us. Like we have no problem with you identifying with our culture. When people go to Hawaii and you're greeted as soon as you get off the plane with a lei, like that is them welcoming you into their culture. For them, they're going to teach you things, you know what I mean? And it's okay once someone has welcomed you into that space for you to be a part of it and to even claim a part of it. You don't need to say that you know everything about it, because just because somebody put a lei around my neck don't mean I know everything about Hawaiian culture or anything of that nature. That's going a little bit too far. But if you're welcomed into that space, that's cool. The problem comes is when you take it, like j-zoe just said. Don't take something that belongs to me, my people, and my culture and decide that it's more profitable for you, or it's okay on you and it's not okay on me. The whole mini buns versus bantu knots, the boxer braids and cornrows, and like that belong to Black culture.
Yeah, and these white dreadlocks, I'm sorry. First of all, they look nasty.
Hey,
They look nasty as fuck. Like you just look
Oh
dirty.
my
You look
God.
like you ain't bathed in about 10,
Oh,
11,
shit.
12 months.
I mean,
Please
that's how
stop
they
it.
get the locks, though. They don't.
I was
wash
about
their
to
No,
say
you
hair.
know how I watched the video. You know, I'm tired of seeing these damn Facebook videos of white women trying to get their hair to do some shit it's not made to do. So I hate to sound irate, but it just bothers me so much because you're literally manipulating. I mean, I know that I have to manipulate it, but like at the end of the day, my hair grows around. So it grows in a ring so that it could do that shit naturally. Your shit is straight and it falls and hangs straight. And the only thing that they do, they try to interlock it, which is why they tend to look gross and they just look heavy and sad. They just look sad, and eventually you're going to cut them. We all know that this is going to happen, but you just in the meantime just look like a hobo. I'm sorry, I don't like the way that they look, and I feel like it's really desperate that they have to manipulate their hair that much. Oh, and there was another video of this blonde woman trying to like create little ringlets, you know, like trying to have an afro, and it just upset me. I'm sorry. The fact that they even feel like they can use that term and think it's cute. Like it's not a 70s hairstyle. As soon as it rains, your shit is going to puff up and it's going to look ridiculous. So it's just a lot of manipulation. It's like they're manipulating the culture and not even giving us credit for it. It's like they're trying to erase us out of the spaces that we made.
Man, I remember, I think it was a few years on Twitter when some type of like big fashion line, they had released this shit called like a urban sleeping cap or some shit, and it was basically just a do-rag, but like they wanted to rename it and put it on some white men and some white girls and wanted to like rebrand the do-rag like they had invented that shit.
And it cost like $50. I remember that.
I have a question for Blue, and anyone else can chime in too, but how do we feel about other ethnic cultures who don't necessarily have the kind of hair for dreadlocks or cornrows or stuff like that, like an Asian guy with really straight, silky hair? How do you feel when you see that kind of thing?
See, actually, the whole hair topic wouldn't bug me if they would just stop trying to change the names of shit and just give props to the actual culture it came from.
Agreed.
Because one, Asian cultures like Japan, Asia, Asian cultures like Japan, China, Korea, they've been borrowing a lot of Black actual hip hop for a while. They've been doing it for like 20, 25 plus years. It's just that no one watches it, or at least no one from America watches it. But the thing about it is they've never actually tried to claim it as something that's 100% their own. They always give due props. Like, especially when you hear these actors and actresses talk about it, they always give their due props to like Biggie, Tupac, you know, people that brought us to this forefront.
No. When I saw Snoop and Tupac and Biggie on t-shirts in Forever 21, at that point it's no longer like, oh, we're honoring you, we recognize that these are your figures. It's like, no, you're trying to take our shit. It's not for you. Again, this is not your space to take, and we have to stand our ground. Now I do want to say, I'm sorry, I have to give a little bit of side eye to the Black folk, because, you know, when we talk about how white women are manipulating their hair, it's because the standards of beauty are changing and they know it. Like big lips, full ass, big ass lips. Like y'all seen that? There's this Rimmel London model. She got big lips. You know what I'm saying? And those, I think, belong to her. But, you know, like they get the plastic surgery. They want the ass because, you know, Nikki sort of, I don't know if it was her or if she came with just a wave of big ass, beautiful ass Black women. But now that's the trend, is having a little rump, having a little, you know, something extra that you sitting on. So like, it's cute, you know, but at the same time, when I say it's cute, I'm saying that like I think it's nice that it's appreciated to a certain level, but they aren't necessarily, I don't see them really giving, I don't see other cultures giving Black folks the head nod. I think that the problem with Black cultural appreciation is that Black people are never credited for the things that they've done. I mean, even thinking about how many Black inventors there have been. And I'm so pissed off at Thomas Edison, all them years of learning about how he invented electricity and all that shit. Like, that shit is bullshit. He just paid the Black man to do it for him. Like, that's what happened. The Black man created the whatever goes inside of the light bulb to actually make it turn on. I can't even remember his name, but I know it was a Black man who created it. And that alone makes me upset when I think about cultural appropriation. But kind of giving that side eye to Black people who are walking around with, you know, straight hair. Our hair does not do that naturally. You know, we're trying to bleaching. I don't know if y'all have seen those videos, but where you got legit, and this is popular in the Caribbean culture. It's like not even Caribbean, African too. They bleach their skin so that it can be more pale and more appealing. But I think there's some confusion because we don't know what beauty looks like anymore. We're starting to see more afros on TV and commercials. Like, it's beautiful to me, but it wasn't always appreciated. And I don't really think it's being appreciated now. I just think that it's being recognized to a certain extent.
See, the recognition is where the appreciation comes in, though. Like, before, the standards of beauty were your straight up and down light skin, well, fair skin white woman with straight blonde hair. That's what it was. And now that, for whatever reason, don't ask me because I don't know what the shift was or when it came, but now you have all these beautiful Black people wearing froze on the red carpet, have head wraps on the red carpet in traditional African attire on the red carpet. You have talk show hosts that have braids and twists and froze and twists.
They just don't call it that, and that's where the lack of respect comes in. Call it what we named it.
And it's also,
I'm not talking about the white people. I'm talking about the Black folk. Like, you just have an influx of Black influencers and people around you, and now people are like, oh, that looks nice. They are pretty, and I feel like Black people and Black women especially are just coming into a phase where they recognize their own beauty as it is and not trying to fit into the standards of white America. And now white
not really, because
like,
the product industry went up. There's still a high level of manipulation. High level to get a certain look. We're not really allowing our natural beauty to show. We're kind of still trying to create the picture.
I said learning.
But surely. I just wanted to be sharp. I want to see immediate results. So I feel like we're still confused. I feel like all Americans are really confused.
Here's the problem, and this is the way I've always seen it. Especially growing up as from a Haitian family, the way I've always seen it is that Black people don't accept their own subcultures as well as other races do. Like, between Asian cultures, the Koreans and Japanese and Chinese, they all understand their own unique cultures. For white communities, the Irish,
Weren't
Scottish.
they fighting each other? Do they? I thought they were.
Yeah, if you look way back in history, they fight, but all cultures did. So that isn't even really a
So
point.
you don't think there's still a fragment of? I mean, because everyone has national pride.
Well, yes, but in terms of cultural pride, especially for Asian communities, there's only really like 3, and they're usually based between
That's
Buddhism,
not true,
Shintoism.
though. That's for the major Asian countries like
Well, yeah,
China
I was
and Korea.
actually
But what about Malaysia? Let's talk about the
getting to
indentured
that.
servants we don't talk about in other cultures, and it's not as prominent, though.
They're not prominent. They're still there.
No, and that was what I was getting to. Even though we as a Black community, we're more divided than even the smaller Asian communities in other areas. My point is essentially that we as a Black community, we fight against ourselves so much within our own soul cultures that it's easy for communities, mostly the white communities, to steal what's technically ours and then misappropriate it for themselves. For example, if we weren't having such a divide within the colorism of our own Black community, whether it's lighter skin people look cuter than others and thinner hair, blah blah blah, if we would just accept the fact that we all have shades to ourselves and we're all beautiful, then the moment some bullshit like boxer braids comes up, would have been like, nah, that's Black, straight up. They're called dreadlocks. Shut the hell up, sit your ass down, and call it a day.
But we did do that though. Like, white people are gonna steal shit regardless of whether we unite against them or not. Like I definitely remember the only reason I realized that was the thing is because the Black community as a whole uprise against that shit. Like, they were like going in on it. So it's not really about whether we stand up to it. They just shouldn't do the shit, period.
And before we kind of get too far away from it, I want to touch on something Blue said when she was talking about people, bleaching and wanting to straighten their hair. And I feel like it's because, and Lyric touched on it as well, and I think it's also connected to what j-zoe said about colorism, but we have to remember that we are literally in a society where even now the white ideal is still the ideal for beauty. That straight hair, as light as your skin can get, all of that stuff. Like, and even me growing up, I wanted to be light skinned. I wanted to be light skinned. I wanted to have light eyes, and I wanted to have straight hair. And I was repeatedly bullied for having my hair too thick and not being straight enough. Like, right now, people love my hair. Like, I'm trying to lock it up. But if I would have wore that shit in high school, I would have been bullied and harassed like hell. So it's crazy because a lot of shit that my hair had that people bullied me for, it's now in. And it's kind of just like a progress. It's kind of just, it takes time. But it's interesting to see that now everyone wants an afro. Now everyone wants thick hair. Now everyone wants to lock their hair up, where back then the shit was not in.
And one thing, go ahead.
Something I want to just touch on about what Jenna said. Colorism definitely is an issue, and we did create a white standard of beauty, and that's not just in America, that's in a lot of places. But something I want to say about colorism, and I'm sure it does have to do with the places that Europeans explored, but there is not a culture in the world that does not value fair skin. Like, it is in every culture. Cultures you don't think have been under such tyranny. It's in every single culture, even purely Asian cultures. There's something about fair skin that we just always try to aim for or say is better. We always want to say that darker skin is not okay. And I want to know at what point that happened in human evolution. I know that there's the idea of the standard of beauty or the Aryan race, but I don't think that's the only thing. That single thing shaped every single culture in the world.
I think that happened around, like, honestly, within the past couple centuries, basically around the, I guess just when the world was communicating more and just white people started like infiltrating all aspects of basically all cultures and started being the tyrants that they are. I don't know. It's kind of interesting that like white people are kind of like a common enemy against like all the minorities.
Have you seen? There's a show called Fresh Off the Boat. It's about I don't know like what's their culture, like their race, but I know they're Asian.
I'm not mistaken.
Is that what they are?
I want to say it's
anyway. They talk about white people all the time, and that's why I watch it, because I relate. I can make a genuine connection to how they feel, even though they are a completely different race from me.
I find it a little bit offensive almost though sometimes. Like, I've gotten into watching Blackish and I find that relatable, but something about Off the Boat, the few episodes I've caught, I felt like were offensive. And in reverse, I don't have the exact word to insert here, but how we talk about coonery in the Black community, it feels like that for Asian people.
Yeah, it does. It has
I
that.
know.
Well, I wouldn't know, but it does feel like it's a bunch of stereotyping.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of my Asian friends say that they don't really fuck with Fresh Off the Boat because there's a lot of stereotypes.
I think that overall, it's all just too gray. I don't think that you can police it. I don't think it's when it comes to determining whether or not it's appropriate to adapt something in another person's culture. I think that you should consider two things: your intent first, and then also the nature of the situation. So one of the things that is more obvious to me because I'm gay is that in the Black culture, Black women specifically take on a lot of things that the gay community does. A lot of terminology, a lot of fashion, and because usually it's the Black gay community that the Black women take it from, it's okay because we're all Black, and that's how Black women might see it. But in the gay community, that's like a big deal. They get very upset at that. A lot of gay guys call each other girl. But if a Black woman calls a gay guy a girl, like, she's taking it too far. That's not her place. She should stay out of that. And I just like, it just gets so tedious, and the policing is just too much. It reminds me of when the post shooting happened and Chick-fil-A decided to donate food to the people who were waiting in line to donate blood. And it was like two dynamics happening there, right? Because the people waiting in line to donate blood were primarily heterosexual people and a lot of white people, which was interesting, being that most of the people in the club were Hispanic, but that's separate. But Chick-fil-A particularly came under fire because they make large contributions to anti-gay rights organizations. So some people saw it as, oh, they've changed, or they've changed their views, or they're doing this in a godly way, but the gay community didn't. As a gay person myself who does not support Chick-fil-A, I saw that as, this is opportunistic. They're taking this opportunity to say, we are not like this. We are not like we're perceived to be. And also a marketing tactic that was on TV all day, every day, 4 days. So Chick-fil-A's logo and bag and image and conversations about Chick-fil-A donating that food was happening all the time. So I just feel like the intent is one thing to consider, and then the situation. In that situation, I would have rather Chick-fil-A stay the fuck out of it. And I think that Bubba said something about that earlier that I actually hadn't considered until he said it, is that in a time of mourning or hurt, sometimes it's not your place to step in, because that hurt or that mourning is exclusive to that community. And I agree with that, but I just think overall it's just kind of like, it's tiring, it's exhausting. Like, can I do this? I don't know. Who was the first culture that ever did it? Let me do research. I don't know if I should put my hair this way. I don't know if I should wear this. I don't know if I can go here. Like, it's too much. I'm busy. Like, I don't have time to do all of that.
I mean, honestly, this whole shit is exhausting. Like, just having your culture appropriated, having to clap back at people who have appropriated your culture, having to like write articles to educate these people. This whole thing is exhausting, and sometimes I wish people would just kind of get it, And as far
but
as,
how do we get there, Bubba? Like, how is it okay to learn from other cultures? Like, we've talked about a lot about what upsets us, but let's talk about how we can be progressive and proactive, not just about how white people can be that for us, but what can you do to allow yourself into another culture that's not your own, whether that's Asian or Indian or Middle Eastern or...
I think unless somebody invites you or allows you into that space, then it's not your place to jump in there.
So you can't seek to get to know, like that can't be on your to-do list.
Oh no, you can.
They
but...
have to friend request me. I'm just like, you need my permission.
See, I think personally that's too single-minded. Because honestly, I think you should just have the ability just to go ahead and show respect to another person's culture and be able to potentially seek that kind of feedback that you're looking for.
Okay. Go ahead, Bubba.
And on a similar note to what you were saying, it is about respect. It's about, taking the time to do your own research. Google is a thing. Like, Google is on everybody's phone. It's not hard to look up what the meaning of something is. It's right there on Wikipedia, on probably several different websites. So it's not hard to look up the meaning of something. And it's like, I feel like it's your job, if you're walking into another culture, to educate yourself and not just be like, oh, this looks nice, I'm gonna wear this, or oh, I like this Indian head shit. Damn, what's the name of it? Head thing. So I'm just put this on. Like, no, do research, and if you find out through your research that it has a specific spiritual purpose to it, then don't fucking wear it. It's like, it's really, we could do a lot of educating, but if you don't want to be educated, we can't do anything for you.
I think what you were referencing was the Native American headdress, by the way.
Yeah, my bad. I was fucking up. Yeah.
Oh, no problem. I was just letting you know. But j-zoe, I got a question for you. So you said that my point about more or less being welcomed into that culture was single-minded. Can you explain that again? Because depending on your answer, I got a question for you.
Well, the way it was being described, it just sounded like someone couldn't learn about a culture and want to potentially be accepted to it. For an example, one of my best friends is Black, Cuban. He's multiracial. He's a mix of several things, but his primary culture is not what he actually follows. He studied Shintoism for about 12 years. He became a Shinto priest. So it's like, what I'm saying is, it's not necessarily a bad, wrong. I just thought the way you were describing it was a little single-minded.
Okay.
Kind of not single, but closed-minded rather.
Okay. So with that being said, maybe I didn't articulate it correctly, but my thought process, as you were stating with your best friend, that is something that he wanted to get to know, and he surrounded himself with those things. By surrounding himself, he found people that accepted him into that culture. Therefore, he's fine. If you have someone who really enjoys Korean culture, likes K-pop, all of the multifaceted things that go into Korean culture, and that's something that you enjoy, you typically go to those places and you are around those people, and those people accept you into that culture. My problem comes in is when people just jump somewhere and think that they're supposed to belong because they can. Wanting to learn about something is fine, because when you want to learn about something, you seek out those things and those people, and you surround yourself with that culture. I have no problem with that. But just jumping into it and feeling like this is where you belong just because you want to belong there is a little bit much.
Yo, I got the perfect example for that, because like it also goes off of what we was talking about a little bit earlier about getting invited into the culture. So I'm all about hip hop. So music, the hip hop music, we look at someone like Eminem. Eminem, of course, is a white man and one of the best rappers out there. One of my favorite rappers, probably my favorite rapper. But he basically made his way into the hip hop culture, like into the hip hop community. Like, he was invited in basically by Dr. Dre. Like, Dr. Dre basically like gave him that pass. Like he vouched for him. Like, oh, yo, this Dr. Dre. And like, he came in, but he didn't change up like who he was. Like, he literally talks the way he raps. He didn't come in and like try to like rap about things that he doesn't own. Like, he's never really been like a flashy, like, get in there, talk about pimps, like selling drugs or hoes and all that stuff. He literally just talks about crazy shit. Like, talks about his life, his mom, and his like crazy ass like baby mom, and use that in contrast to Iggy Azalea. Iggy Azalea came onto the hip hop scene, getting vouched for by T.I. You know, King of the South for those that don't know. So, and so T.I. gave her the vouch, but the difference between Iggy and Eminem is Iggy, she came in and people felt like she was being fake, like she was like,
And
especially
she thought it was okay to say the N-word because she was Australian.
that too. And she came in with like trying to have that whole, I guess, black woman features. Like she got the booty and like she was like really like selling herself off of that. And she was like had this whole twang to her voice and stuff. And like the fact that she was like probably a lot different. Like that's probably how she didn't really talk. And that's where people like really were feeling like offended and whatnot. And like to like being invited in does like kind of get you a vouch, but it can't be your only thing. Like you can't live off that forever. You can't be like, oh no, it's cool, T.I. vouch for me. Like, nah, like you still coming in here and try to act fake. Like that makes me think of I was reading an article about this guy, this other rapper who's kind of fairly new, Post Malone. I don't know if you guys heard about him, but he had that White Irish Son, the White Irish Son
the dude who had like the little box braids on his album cover.
Yeah, that dude. Like the album, I ain't gonna lie, I fucks with the album. I likes it. But I was reading up on this whole, they were saying that Post Malone's a fraud. And the reason they were saying that, like he's really young. He used to do country music. Like he got all these country songs on YouTube. He was in a band. And then he moved to California and he decided, oh, I'm gonna do rap. And he grew out the braids, put golds in his mouth, and started talking in like this like Paul Wall kind of accent, like this.
That
like,
sound like Lil Jon.
Like shit. Yeah, he basically tried to be Lil Jon, but white. And he deleted all his old videos of the country, like all the shit he did before from the internet. And that's like straight up cultural appropriate. Like he literally came in like, yo, I'm gonna make money off of these people. Like I'm finna go in, do they shit.
And that's where it starts. That's where it starts. That remind me of who's the dude that Katy Perry used to date? Riff Raff?
Yeah, fucking Riff Raff. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Wait,
Please not get into Riff Raff.
Y'all remember the hip hop? Yes. Y'all remember the hip hop Dalmatians from Brown Sugar?
Yes.
That's every white male rapper reminds me of that duo.
God damn.
Has anyone heard of G-Eazy?
Yes.
Yeah, he's like
yes, I like
more depressing.
You like him?
That nigga is trash.
I said he's like Macklemore, but more depressing.
Not you, Axel. I think just said he liked him. I heard somebody.
I don't mind G-Eazy. Like he, at least from the songs that I've heard, I haven't heard him do what Post Malone is doing. Like as far as
Post Malone is actually decent.
Look, y'all, I'm a conspiracy theorist. I had some music apps, and I've used more than a few. I did Amazon Prime Music at some point. I've been in Spotify. I had YouTube Red and the Google Play set up before. I even did Beats Music at some point. And I would put on hip hop playlists, and I'm talking about real hip hop, like Tribe Called Quest and stuff. And they kept forcing G-Eazy on me. And then they did it in other stations, in like J. Cole, or if I was listening to, I don't know, Future even, it kept pushing on me, and I kept hitting the thumbs down. And that is like some like sneaky ass advertising. I have made it so clear I do not like him and I don't like his shit, and they keep forcing it on me.
That same shit happened to me on Google Music. Like he just kept coming on. Anytime I play like today's rap hits or some shit like that, he would be like one of the first songs or some shit. And then he was like on the new 2K, the NBA 2K game as well. I believe he might be what they call and that's what the article about Post Malone was saying, is that he might be an industry plant. In that like these dudes, the type of dudes that just come out of nowhere, nobody heard they shit before, and then now they're everywhere. Like it's one thing if they was like a feature on somebody's shit and they build their way up, like nah, they just come out of the blue, like bam, this guy's a hit. And you're just like, what the fuck? I've never even heard him on YouTube or anything. Like, where are these people coming from? So yeah, there might be something to this conspiracy theory.
Yeah, honestly, they've just been trying to push G-Eazy for the last solid 6 months or so.
There used to be a group. There used to be a group called G-Eazy and Special Sauce. Is that the same guy?
I have no idea.
I don't know. But G-Eazy is the definition of white mediocrity being successful. Like,
See, actually, I don't think it's necessarily my damn white
Oh.
mediocrity being successful. That's deep. I don't think it's necessarily that. I think it's the fact that not that he can make a hit, but he can make a catchy song. So they've kind of taken that and ran with it.
Is he getting radio play? I just
He
don't
is.
know who this guy is.
He did a feature recently with some kind of like of the alternative techno UK kind of sound. Chick, I don't even know who it is, but he did something with a sweet voice. I'm not gonna lie, I like that song, his one feature on there. But I'm mad when they force his actual rap on me.
Yeah, like he'll pop up on playlists a lot, and that's the only bit of exposure that I've gotten to him. I haven't like sat down and listened to his discography or anything like that. I doubt seriously if I'm going to. I think he has an album out, but not really. That's a bit much.
He's actually on his third album coming out.
Third?
Actually, yeah, third. And to be fair, G-Eazy was a pretty he was pretty popular back when MySpace kind of got its re-originating thing in 2010. I've actually heard of
People were
G-Eazy
using MySpace in 2010. That was a thing.
Yeah, that's where I found G-Eazy and Special Sauce. I feel like this is the same guy. I'm gonna
like
look it up.
G-Eazy and them like opened for like random like how Wale used to open for like Ludacris concerts back in the day before he blew off. Same thing with G-Eazy. I just think it's because maybe you guys didn't really hear of him until this kind of reemergence with his second album where he kind of really took off. But he's been around for like 6-7 years. So he was just underground. And that's my thing. Kind of to counter use your some of your arguments from earlier. It's that he was doing his thing. It's just you guys didn't know of him until recently. But he's had a pretty good following for, like I said, 6-7 years.
And I basically I think it's crazy how like we all have different viewpoints and ideas about just cultural appropriation. And I hate to say it always comes back to that it's a gray as area. It's a gray area because it's kind of hard to say, oh, it's all this way, oh, it's all that way. It's just kind of a gray area. And I think the best way to kind of look at it is go into everything you do with respect for that culture, respect for the people in that culture. Just go into it with respect, and I feel like for the most part, you can't do wrong with that. But I'm going to let you all ponder on those thoughts while we tune into our rewind section, starting with Axel.
I am a black man. Shocking, I know. I have a simple 8-to-5 job making less than $50,000 a year. I have a collection of bills on my coffee table that I haven't paid. I have an old ass apartment filled with random roommates with antennas on their heads and they hate raid. I have a credit score that's significantly below 700. And did I mention that I have debt that totals over 20,000? I could list the amount of failed relationships I've had, but I actually don't know. I wasn't counting. #HurtBay. The point is, I have problems, but what I also have is privilege. The two are not mutually exclusive. Yes, I know that if a black girl uses slang, they'll say that she's ratchet and probably in a gang, and many will question how she was raised. But if a 13-year-old white girl tells you to catch her outside, she'll be applauded and praised. Now, how about that? Yes, I know that being black means if I'm arrested, I'm more likely to serve a longer sentence than a white counterpart, even if it's the same crime we're committing. But I also know that being a straight male means I won't be constantly harassed about which bathroom I shit in. Fun fact, people who are transgendered are more likely to be the victims of sexual assault, not the attackers. So to everyone antagonistically arguing about restroom relations, you've got that shit backwards. And no, I'm not an actor getting paid to say this. And yes, I know it feels like unarmed black people are being gunned down on a daily basis. At the same time, I know I can avoid jail time as long as I'm famous, because in this country, green is always in and brown is always out. Privilege means as long as I pray to God, I'm allowed to be devout. If I gun down 9 people, they won't demonize all Christians. But if I pray to Allah, they place blame on the whole religion. Lady Liberty, please close your robes. Your hypocrisy is showing. Now, overall, I can say democracy is growing. As Americans, we have the privilege of having a democratic process to elect our leaders. Though it may be flawed, it's still a lot better than some other countries abroad. But that does not excuse the bullshit that minorities have to go through over here. Like, imagine being a woman walking down the street. Imagine the type of misogynistic shit that you'd overhear. Matter of fact, ask any man if he could relive his life. Would he rather be reborn as a man or a woman? 9 times out of 10, he'll say man. And when you ask him why, ignore whatever alternative facts he might spit. The real reason is because he knows we love to treat our women like shit. Well, that in childbirth. That shit looks painful. But yes, America's treatment of women is so shameful. Just check the evidence. If you violate a woman sexually, you could spend a whopping 3 months in jail. And heck, you might even get to be president. But if you don't have that rich white male privilege card, you might want to be hesitant. Hashtag Bill Cosby. Now, this is by no means an attack on one specific group. It's an attempt to show that just because you have disadvantages does not mean you don't have any advantages. Black, white, straight, gay, male, female, we all have issues. But that does not mean we don't all have some privileges. It's not just a privileged few. And if you disagree with my points, that's great, because the point is you have the privilege to. With all that being said, yes, I'm a black man. But sometimes I wish I was born a wealthy, heterosexual, Christian, Caucasian man named Hunter. I would be able to enjoy all of America's pleasures with ignorant bliss. And yeah, some snowflakes might shame me and paint me as some spoiled son of a bitch who lives in the lap of luxury without any problems. And that image would suck, but they're wrong about me. Number one is, I don't realize I'm privileged as fuck.
And that was Axel Pros with Black Privilege. Next we have Bubba.
Timmy Turner, here wishing for a burner to kill everybody walking. You know that it's all in the furnace. Timmy Turner, here wishing for a burner to kill everybody walking. You know that it's all in the furnace. Lil Timmy was on the news again today. Lil Timmy got his bike stolen for the 3rd time this year. Steal from him once, shame on you. Steal from him twice, shame on him. Steal from him a 3rd time, and he's about to go off on a nigga. Lil Timmy thinks it's one of those niggas down the street that stole it. See, Timmy is that white boy raised in the hood that thinks he's better than these niggas walking free on his street. So little Timmy tried to get his bike back. Bought bullets for his AK, thought it was okay to kick down the door, point the gun towards the father, and whisper, "This is my house, nigga." Lil Timmy wanted his property back. Let his white freedom reign, like bled into the body of those he deemed his. Took the phrase, "You are made in God's image," to heart. He thought he could play God and tell them it was their time to go. When he left, the family's blood was thicker than the water he used to try to clean up the mess. Timmy was too busy unleashing his rage for his stolen bike. He noticed that the family never even had it. His parents never noticed the black blood on his hands when he walked through the door, even if they did. His mother would whitewash the death from his palms. His father would say, "All boys make mistakes." Lil Timmy was a good boy. Cops knocked on the door. His skin signaled that he was not a threat, that he has a 3.8 GPA, ran track and field, was the vice president of his student government. Timmy was a good boy. Until he shot up a family. Until he brought a family closer to God. Until he wanted his bike back. If Timmy was a nigga, he would be filled with bullets like Philando. Target practice. If you put a white killer and an innocent black man side by side, the police won't know who to shoot at. It's funny how Timmy can get a Big Mac on his way to jail while black families don't even get to live. Fuck Dylan, or Elliot, Patrick, Rob, Chris, Timmy. Just name any white man and you may have a mass shooter, murderer. It's funny how the media has synonyms for terrorists like misguided youth, troubled, innocent until we care about marginalized lives enough to find them guilty, like they have no idea what they're doing, like each life is a lap of judgment. But I guess they're just too young to understand. They are boys who made a mistake, boys who kill and become the real victims. Lil Timmy was on the news again today. No mugshot, just a young boy's smile to remind white America that could have been their son. Could have been their white Jesus with blood dripping down his fingertips, becoming the gospel for other young terrorists. giving them hope that they could strive to be just like him.
And that was Bubba with Little Timmy. Thank you for listening this week. Be on the lookout for our special Get Out podcast episode. I know y'all were probably like, why the fuck did we not talk about Get Out? They still waiting for late niggas like me to watch the shit. It's going to be full of spoilers. Go see it, and it will be in the near future. Now we leave you with these thoughts from the poets in your head.
My black ass features don't look better on you. Remember that.
Don't steal things that don't belong to you.
Go with your gut. If it feels wrong, it's because it probably is.
Be black and wear glasses. Avoid the statistic.
The black girls with natural hair who keep up with their tumblers.
My melanin is not a costume.
In the words of Crystal Valentine, black privilege is being so unique that not even God looks like you.
This culture don't pop for you.